Hey everybody, David Duford here. Hope you guys are having a fantastic day. Thank you for joining me on another role play hot seat training session. We've covered a couple of different topics over the last few weeks, and what I'd like to focus on today is more to do with the closing process of the sales presentation and ironing out any sort of hiccups that occur at this point regarding objection handling, actually closing the deal, and everything associated with that. So if you've never attended one of these live streams or have been on a role-playing call or seen a video recording of this, what we do is that I take you through the different sections of the sales presentation or prospecting attempt and break it down while providing a lesson on what to actually do, but also put you on the spot in order to see what skill set you've developed in as far as closing goes, and then to address any issues that may have popped up that you were unaware of. So it's a good opportunity to figure out, okay, what am I doing right? What can I improve on?
I can't hear you.
Say that again?
I can't hear you. There's something wrong with the volume or something.
Jonathan, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Yeah, it might be on your end, Tina.
I don't know what's wrong.
Okay, so what we're going to do today is start right at the closing presentation process. So right there, as we have closed them conceptually on why our policy is better than the alternatives, and now we're moving towards wrapping the whole deal up. So I'm going to call on you, Jonathan, since Tina and I did a lot last week. Jonathan, you want to jump in here and drill this with me?
Hey, what's up, man? Yeah, sure.
Okay, great. So I'll play prospect, you play agent, and let's hear what you got.
All right, so like, kind of where do you want me to come in? Because right after the health questions, like where I asked if they have a bank account or direct express or kind of how?
So after you have explained the difference between term life, whole life, and guaranteed issue.
Okay, and I've already got my quotes at that point, right?
Yeah. So at this point, right before this, you've drawn up your quotes. You know exactly what it is that I want, and I know you've kind of have to make it up because you haven't, actually.
Gotcha. Okay.
So just
what did you say your budget was?
$80 to $100 a month.
$80 to $100 a month. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, David, I've got some quotes here for you. So I ran these with multiple companies. So just a reminder, I'm a broker, so I work with a lot of different companies to get you the best price, best coverage possible. I think you qualify for day one. I've got three prices here inside your price range for you. You said it was between 80 and 100. Now, because I'm a broker, like I said, I do work with multiple different companies. So there's actually two different companies here on the table. I've got Trinity for $100 a month. I've got Security National for $92.35, and I have Trinity also for $85. I could start over because I didn't give you the totals. Did I?
As far as face amount goes?
Yes, face amount. Yeah.
Just say 10,000. It's not.
Yeah.
It's a not. What's the face amount of each of those?
So top one 10. Middle one 9, bottom one 8, all inside your price range. So, David, which one of those do you think best fits your budget?
Okay, off script. So a couple of things I'm going to ask you to clarify so I can understand better.
Yeah, no, we may even want to start over.
No, that's okay.
That's okay. A little bit.
So my first question is why have two different companies that you're presenting?
Usually if I run them quotes, and I'm inside their budget range, I tend to find, like, say you want 80 to 100, and I look for 10, 15,000. I find something in that range. If I give them three options to pick from, and one company is less for, like, say I quote 10, 9, and 8,000. If the middle company or the bottom company is less in that price range, then I'll just let them know that they have that option with that company if they qualify for it. Usually I just wind up picking the cheaper rate from whatever I'm quoting for whatever the price is. basically, as long as they'll qualify for that company.
Meaning that
sense?
you have one company with 3 different face amounts, right?
Either that, or if a second company has a cheaper price for that face amount, then I'll show them that company also in addition to the other one.
So besides the question of whether they qualify or not, which we should at this point have a pretty good idea.
Yeah.
What is the purpose of showing a higher price and a lower price company?
No, okay. I think I might be explaining it wrong. So say you've got Trinity at 10,000, well, is $50 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And Trinity at 9,000 is $42 a month, where Security National would be 40. And then Trinity at 8,000 would be, the cheap. Basically, when I run my quote for that dollar amount, I just look, as long as they qualify, I look for the cheapest company that has that dollar amount. And then I try to give them 3 prices in that price range, but obviously they have different coverage amounts, obviously, because they're going to. So I just pick the cheapest off the quote that I run for that face amount.
Okay. So there are circumstances where higher face amounts are going to be more expensive than with one company, but lower face amounts are going to be cheaper. I mean, I guess that's possible, but usually it works the other way around. Mathematically, if you look at the policy fee, I'm just thinking if you're running a price.
Honestly, I've only had that happen a few times, and
Okay.
I probably shouldn't have done that for this instance.
That's
but
fine.
Yeah,
That's fine.
That's only really happened like once in a rare occasion for me. Usually, if Trinity's the cheapest or whatever, and I run 3 different face amounts, Trinity's generally the cheapest across the board for that.
Okay.
person.
Yeah.
Again,
yeah.
I told you I'm bad at acting, so
that's okay. Well, it's not wrong what you're doing. The question is, we want to simplify it if at all possible.
Yeah.
So if that's an exception, that's different.
Yeah, I shouldn't have done that. That was my bad.
That's okay. So the next question I have for you is, how much information did you give me about the companies, and how much do you normally give your prospects on the company itself?
So whenever I talk to them about the difference between, and this may be, there's probably a disconnect at where we started on this. So usually when I run through the companies as far as term, whole life, guaranteed issue, whatever, usually I don't say guaranteed issue unless that's the only thing they qualify for. When I run through those, I explain to them the differences in that, and I ask them which ones sounds best for them. They say whole life. So when I'm giving them the quote, they already know it's whole life coverage. And I've explained to them that, as long as they make the payment, the face amount's not going to change. The payment amount's not going to ever go up on them. Coverage amount's never going to drop. I've explained kind of that before I ever get to the dollar amount, so to speak.
Okay, that's fine. So do you have an explanation of the company at that point, the specific company like Trinity or Security National at that point?
I generally never go into specifics about each company. I just let them know. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
I generally don't go into specifics about companies. They know that they're getting a whole life coverage plan where the price is never going to go up. The coverage amount is never going to drop. As long as they make their payment, they're always going to have coverage. It'll be with them until they die. So I'm because of the fact that I used to, whenever I did mortgage protection, might go into details about the difference in each company, but I haven't, unless maybe I'm missing something. If they're qualified for a company, there's not a whole lot of differences in them, unless you're talking about like maybe Foresters and their benefits. But generally, Foresters in Kentucky for me is generally not usually cheaper for the client.
So my concern, and let me, and
I see the stress in your face.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to say this in the right way. Nothing
just say
surprising or shocking.
You're
right with what you're saying. Like, people on the other extreme put way too much emphasis on the companies. Like, none of these people care about AM Best ratings. I've had one person out of 3,000 people I've sat with that have said anything about an AM Best rating, and that's a final expense thing. you may go to sell annuities or large term insurance policies, then sure, yeah, maybe you need to be well prepared with a better presentation of the policy. It's just a level of what's enough information, because I would suppose, and you tell me what you think, do you think that you might be creating an objection or at least sales resistance with the prospect not knowing even a base level amount of the company?
So whenever I tell them that the part that I tell them I'm a broker, I'm able to shop multiple rates for them, I tell them the companies I work with all have A-rate. They're all A-rated companies, which means they have enough money in the bank to pay all their death benefits. If, they have enough money in the bank to pay all their death benefits and still operate. So your money's safe with them. You don't have any worry. Sometimes I might say something because, maybe, but I've had times where I've went to mention something about a company and then they're like, well, how old is that company? Or like Transamerica. And you say they're a great company, Transamerica, that's who's got my brother's life insurance is with Transamerica. You've probably heard them they've got retirement and stuff like that. I've had some retirements at some old jobs with them. Oh yeah. But then I start, well, how long have they been around and when have they been open and stuff like that. So, occasionally if I do Security National, I might say something about, they just passed $1 billion in assets on the whatever that, if it's something recent that they've emailed out that I remember. I've never really had any objections about a problem with the company. Maybe that's just me or the luck I've had so far. Nobody's ever, if I do Mutual of Omaha, I might be like, oh, hey, you remember Wild Kingdom, Mutual of Omaha? And I'm like, oh, yeah, I remember that, But I've never, if I pitched Trinity or main ones have been Trinity, AIG, Transamerica, Mutual of Omaha. I might say something along those lines of the things I just told you, but I've never really had too many objections or too many people push back or be concerned about the company type. I did have a guy one night, which I couldn't get him qualified. I mentioned some companies and he was like, oh, I don't like that one. I don't like that one. I don't like that one because of this. And, so him, I kind of did some of that with, but I don't know.
Okay.
Do you think I should be going into some of that more?
So here's my perspective on this. I think that on some little basic level, if you don't make a basic explanation of the company,
okay.
and I'll explain what I mean by here.
That's
you
fine.
could be leaving some room for concern or doubt. Okay. But with that said, like I totally believe if people are closed on you, you're the salesman, you're the force of personality that help motivate these people to buy, and they're going to follow your lead. I mean, that's why we can sell no-name companies like Trinity Life or Security National, no offense to them, all day long, because people buy based off of their belief in us to be in, give them the best opportunity or best deal.
Like last Saturday when I was out, I was trying to get to the explanation. The lady was GI, so I explained the difference in the insurance companies, and instead of I skipped the whole life, I went right from the term to the GI explanation. And as I'm trying to explain it to her, she's like, "Yeah, that's fine. How much is that?" And I was like, "Okay," and kept interrupting me. And it's like most of the people I see, I don't know, they just care more about the price than even the company half the time.
Yeah.
It's like, can I afford it? That's all I care about. I don't, it could be Joe Blow insurance company from down the street that, comes and collects his money every month. And I don't think they care. But so that's just me. If it's something I need to tweak, I will, cause me, I'm always up for criticism.
So what you just mentioned there, just as an aside, just be wary of people that are asking you the questions, right? Because as they ask questions, they control the conversation. Never sidestep your normal, regular sales routine. This is just a good fundamental fact. If somebody says, well, how much does that whole life cost? Be like, I'm going to tell you in a second, but let me get done explaining this. Or
that's exactly what I was doing.
Some numbers. Yeah.
I was like, I haven't gotten to that yet. Trust me, I'll explain it to you. I just want you to know how it works. And then she did it a couple more times. I said the same thing. She bought, but yeah.
Good. Yeah. So now back to the presentation or the beginning of the closing section. So here's what I recommend. So if you're a prospect, I would say, Jonathan, let me tell you about the company I can qualify for today. Out of all these companies that I have and work with, the best company for you is Prosperity Life Insurance. And again, off topic, I don't know the exact dates here, but I'll say something about where they're located and what their conception date was. And then I'll tell them the reason why I'm picking this company over another. I want them to know with complete confidence that my recommendation is based off of something that is concrete to their situation. I want them to feel good about the choice that they're making. And I want them to know too that I'm picking this company because I think XYZ this is better than that. So like, let's say we had Transamerica. I would say, hey, Mrs. Jones, the company I qualify today is called Transamerica Life Insurance. Transamerica is out of Cedar Rapids, Iowa. They've actually been in business since 1859. So been through Civil War, World War I, World War II, long-standing, solid reputation. The product that I can qualify for is called the Immediate Solution Life Insurance product. The great thing about what this plan does, off script here, don't assume they think that what you're showing them is exactly the same as what you described earlier. So I go through it and say, everything you see here is exactly the same as what we talked about earlier. Again, rates never go up. Coverage never cancels. First day full coverage. And let me explain to you why I'm looking at Transamerica instead of the other ones. The main reason is that you've got COPD. COPD is one of the hardest conditions to get any kind of first day full coverage for. And so if I can find a plan where I can cover a client immediately from the first day, that's a heck of a lot better than if you're in a situation where you had to wait 2 years unnecessarily and have no natural death coverage. Does all this make sense, Mrs. Jones? So off script there. I like doing that. Go ahead.
Yeah, that does sound obviously a lot better than what I do. I guess I just feel like it's never really mattered in the past, but I'm not opposed.
It might not.
I'm up for trying it. That nothing's going to hurt for me to try change.
Yeah, like I teach the sales presentation. I always assume the worst. I assume that every person I sit with is going to be and is a skeptic. That I am going to make a claim, they're going to say bullshit, or they're going to say, yeah, right. Like that's what I'm thinking they're going to think. So how do I handle skepticism? Obviously in the most extreme sense, because if I can handle somebody that skeptical, then I can handle everybody else that will take whatever I tell them to, like a lot of our prospects for sure. Mm-hmm. So I do all these extra steps to increase clarity, to connect my offer with a reason why. And I think doing that is going to make a stronger connection on confidence in buying. Again, marginal maybe for you. It may not be a big difference, but I don't think it'll hurt. I think it can only help. And I think it's something worth including into the conversation.
Yeah, and I am starting to expand my, companies more. I mean, obviously I'm contracted with them, but I've not been writing consistently a lot more. So I'm doing that more and more. So maybe I do need to brush up on some of that information.
Certainly.
So that I can, and practice that so I can implement that. I try to stick to your sales script and stuff that you have. I try to stick to it for the most part with my own little, not twist, but, making it more my own up until that point. But I probably need to add that in. It wouldn't hurt.
Yeah, I'm more concerned with an agent who's been doing this for a while. Eventually, you start to make the script yours. It becomes you, right? You start to substitute words you wouldn't use that I do, and to describe situations in your own. And you should. It's more natural. It's more sincere in that style of presentation. The key thing is to make sure that we've still have the conceptual basis of, and we are here, of the presentation, and to make sure no stone is left unturned. Now, what was I going to say? Yeah. So for some of you may be asking reasons why to buy. Okay. So the reason I'm telling you that the reason I've selected this plan for you is all sorts of reasons. If there's an underwriting reason and there is a clear niche based off of that underwriting reason, do it. It's well worth explaining that. Again, I want my clients knowing, hey, look, if you got COPD, Transamerica is one of the best choices you got, because, man, a lot of these other carriers won't even touch you. And that's true, and it's effective. People will feel a little bit more urgent to buy because they know that nobody really wants that condition in a lot of cases for at least level coverage. You can also say this is a very competitive carrier. If it is the low price, say it's the lowest price carrier. If it's the lowest price of the carriers you got, say it that way. The reason I'm selecting this is you're in such great shape. Out of all the companies that I have, this company is going to get you the best overall price point. So again, it just make a connection between why you're doing what you're doing and the presentation of the script or presentation of the company. Anybody got any questions about that? Anybody else besides Jonathan? You can pipe in if you want to.
Maybe I do have one question.
Yeah, Tina, what's up?
Well, what if I just don't know? Like, I'm going to be using that pro plan thing, whatever. So I might not know what you know about the different companies.
So the takeaway from today's explanation is really all you really need to know is where the company is headquartered and in what year they started. All of that typically is included in the brochures, which you should be using. I failed to mention this as well. Make sure you show the brochure of the company. Those marketing pieces, totally free to you, make a tangible connection between the concept, the intangible concept of life insurance. So if you can show them, like with Transamerica, it's 8.5 by 11 inch, glossy brochure. It has pictures of people, information about the company, the big Transamerica building. Like, it creates a brand. And again, we ask these things to reduce the resistance level. But so to answer your question, Tina, for the 3 or 4 carriers that you're using, go to the websites, consult your sales literature, and just look for the name, the inception date or headquarters and the headquarters.
Oh yeah, I can find that out.
Yeah, that's simple. They all promote that stuff. They want you to know how long they've been in business.
But just that one thing that you knew, this is the only company that covers COPD. I'm not going to necessarily know that.
Well, so if you're referring to my underwriting cheat sheet, and let's say you look at this circumstance, you'll see on the list where there's a couple of options for COPD for first day full coverage. The way you want to phrase it is, this isn't, and I didn't phrase it this way, this is the only company. This is one of a few companies that will accept this as first day full coverage. That's equivalent. That's true. That's, the other one is false. This is true, and it's accurate, and it's effective because it makes a comparison and contrasting this comparison with somebody else or some other companies. I mean, we've up to this point, remember, explained Colonial Penn. So, hey, if you got Colonial Penn, they're the bad guys. They wouldn't cover you. We're the good guys. We'll cover you.
Okay, thanks.
4 kids here at the house. Sorry. Okay. Any other questions from anybody else? Feel free to chat them or unmute yourself. That works too. Okay, Jonathan. So let's keep going. So you've presented the company to me. You've told me you've got the 3 options out there. What happens now?
See, and I've tried to change this up recently. There was something that you said that you like to say instead of which one fits your budget better, because obviously it's always going to be the cheaper one. I can't remember for life of me right now what it is that you said that you switched to.
So
usually that's always what I've went with, is what's cheaper. Before I started using the basically trying to pitch the budget.
Right. So I'm trying to find a piece of paper to try to demonstrate what I'm doing here. So at this point, I'm going to back up a little bit. I'm going to play agent here. You're going to play prospect.
That works. Yeah.
For this point.
I'm real bad at acting today.
Okay. So let me write these numbers down, Mrs. Jones. So here's what I can do as far as budget goes. And, with again, Transamerica. So I passed this to them. I don't know if you can see it because the white balance on the camera is bad. But I've written down 8,000, 9,000, 10,000, and 80, 90, 100. So I passed this to them on a clean sheet of paper. Why a clean sheet of paper? There's no distractions. There's no other numbers. There's nothing to get the person off course. They're just looking at 3 different numbers with 3 different prices. And so what I say is, here's the options that you have told me that you can afford in your budget, my recommendation is to pick X because of Y. So let's say you and I had a conversation earlier. You want to be buried and you want a mausoleum. Well, that's going to cost more, right? So I would say, based on your budget, I've written down these prices. I would recommend the 10,000, and here's why. So again, here's what I want you to do, and let me explain why to provide context, right? Mausoleums are expensive. The average funeral right now is just at $10,000, but that's for an under the ground burial. If you're putting a mausoleum, it's typically a couple of $1,000s more. So you need every penny that you can get as far as insurance goes. And out of these options, the 8,000 and the 9,000, which are good, aren't going to do as well of a job as the 10,000. So with my recommendation, my question is this to you: which one is best suited for you, or which one's the best fit for you? Off script. So you can say budget. I mean, like, if you are asking them what plan fits your budget the best, the lowest one, you know?
Yeah,
right?
It's always the lowest one.
Well, of course, it's the cheapest one.
Yeah.
But we don't, not that, and that's better than nothing, but this is an example for one little slide of turn of what words we use can affect the decision-making process that we have. So like you said, I did a video, and I might not be even being accurate, but the point is when you ask for the business, the contingency isn't on price. The contingency is on best value. So you can say that even, you know, if which one of these options would be the best value for you, or the best fit, or which would you prefer even? All of those are good. I would argue that probably best of all of those is to say which one's the best value for you. Why? Because you preemptively built value around one of the three there. Because, you know, you explain why you needed 10,000 to have the mausoleum, right? The prices of funerals are going up. You need to have more. Which one is the best value for you? It's a closing question, and they'll say. So I think that kind of sells the higher amount, if that's the case, and it is the one that they should get. Does that all make sense?
Yep.
Okay.
Makes total sense, yeah.
Any questions about this so far from anybody else? You can chat it or get off, and you can unmute yourself. Just pipe in if you'd like. You can interrupt me. So for everybody out there watching the recording of this, and for all of you who are newer, this is the only closing question we ever ask. So I just got done yesterday in a jiu-jitsu training class, and it's funny the parallels between training a martial art and sales. They're both performance arts, both performance activities. And one of the concepts that we learn in jiu-jitsu, at least in the style that we do, is to have a deep, not a broad, but a deep knowledge in one particular approach. When we do submissions in many positions, there's only 2 or 3 that we do. But when we pair those together and we practice those over and over for years and years and years, we get better and better and more proficient versus the agent, or not the agent, the jiu-jitsu practitioner who does 20 different moves. He's not going to have the same level of expertise as somebody who is a master of 1 or 2 and can shut down pretty much everything else that the guy who has limited but broad knowledge. The reason I explain it this way is I do believe in the sales world, it's important to focus on one effective strategy. There's a ton of different closes, you guys, if you've, especially in the old traditional, old school ways of closing, people would come up with like, you know, multitudes of closing techniques. The Benjamin Franklin close. I don't really remember any of it because it's pointless. The best thing to do is a close and be consistent with that style of close. In my strategy, what I teach agents to do is to give a 3-option close. You could even work that down to 2, but my closing strategy is which one is best for you. I don't do any other kind of elaborate close, nor do I expect to actually have to do any more than that. Now, I may object to rebuttal the objections. That's a different thing. But the point I'm trying to make here is you don't have to have 10 different closes. One good close, and this is good. This is perfect. It's all you need. So let's play your objections now, Jonathan. So you're back on agent. I'm now the prospect. You know, let me give this some thought, Jonathan. I don't know. Like, can you call me tomorrow and then I'll tell you what I want to do?
Well, Dave, if you don't mind me asking, when you say give it some thought, what are you thinking about exactly?
Well, just looking at this, I don't know. The problem is it's expensive, man. $100 a month is expensive. I know you said you need to have that. I'm just a little scared, I guess you could say, spending that much money.
Okay. Well, David, the reason why, I showed you that was because you said that your budget was between 80 and 100. If 80 and 100 is a little outside of your range, I mean, we can always, go down from there. Now, the coverage amount would go down also, but we can find something that's more comfortable for you, because the last thing I want to do is take up your time and my time by writing out a policy, getting it sent in and getting it approved, and then you not being able to keep that later. So what if 80 and 100 doesn't work for your budget? How about something between 60 and 80? Would that work better for you?
Yes. But the problem, Jonathan, is that, look, the 70, sure, even the 80 would be fine for my budget, but that's not enough to cover the mausoleum. I mean, I don't, why get coverage if I can't cover everything?
Well, David, sometimes, in fact, always, it's better to have some coverage than no coverage, because just think, the minute we get you approved and they draft your account that first day, you're going to have that coverage that day going forward. You're not going to have to worry about trying to save up the money and this, that, and the other. And if you need more coverage and you're wanting to have something like that, and that's out of your price range, what we could do is we could start this coverage now, and you could start saving and trying to pay for some of those things in advance that might help bring the cost of that down. But the key is, right now you don't have anything really set up for your final expense. And once we can get you approved, then you'll be covered day one. So which one works best for you?
Good, close it.
The 7 or the 8,000?
Good. Okay, I'll start there.
Right after I listened to a training that you did, and I don't know if it was a podcast or what, but you said that after you ask, you sit there and you shut up. You don't care how long it takes. And you said you had a ride along with you and they said something. Yeah. And no joke, I door knocked, and this lady, I said it and I shut up, and her husband were looking at each other, and her husband was laughing, and like he kept breaking the silence, and I just kept shutting up. And basically she was trying to do the math of how long she would have to live before the insurance company got one over on her. And she was trying to do it in her head. But, dude, I was so quiet for so long. I did close it. I think it was like $30 a month or something. But still, I got to keep my mind.
Yeah, no, yeah. That's the thing is, you're like, if they weren't interested, they would have said no by then.
Yeah.
Or they would have given you some of disruptive, they would have said something like, let me think about it. They're on the fence and they just need to mentally work through things in their head. And if you interrupt that stream of thinking, they didn't really complete their thought, and they're muddled, they're confused, and confused people don't buy. They don't make decisions. They just stay confused until there's clarity.
And believe it or not, I've had a lot of people give me their budget, and then when I show them exactly what's in their budget, they're like, well, I just can't afford it. And I'm like, that's no big deal. And I do that exact same thing, and I work it down.
Good.
Some coverage is better than no coverage.
Yeah. So let's hit on some of these points here, because these are fundamental objection rebuttal techniques that every one of us will use probably daily. And we got to get good at, just like Jonathan did a great job going right off the top of his tongue. There was no hesitation. He's done this a bunch of times, and you have to work in the field to get to that point, to have that kind of think on your feet type of strategy or ability. But that doesn't mean we can't practice like right now. So the first curveball I threw him was complaining about the price. I teach agents This is why I show 3 different prices. I teach agents to show options because if they're worried about paying some sort of high price, then we've got something else to pivot to. So in this case, if you ask me which one is the best value, I might have said, I really like the 10,000, but I can't afford the price. That's kind of where I was thinking. And you came back and you said essentially, hey, that's not a problem. The great thing is we can scale the budget to what you're comfortable with. So take a look at the $60 and $70. Which one of these would work for you, right? Mm-hmm. And you said too, you added, so you didn't fight the price thing. And I think that's important. Like what you don't want to do with our prospects is push them into a price they're unsure of. I want them to have total 100% belief that whatever we quote them, they're going to easily afford. Your client should, and that's easily affordable is relative to the client, of course. You know, $20 is expensive for some and it's cheap for others, but what matters to them? And a policy that's easily affordable is most likely going to stay on the books or have the best chances of it at least. Whereas something that's been, maybe it was a little bit out of range and the guy pushed to get it closed because he wanted that big deal. Look, grandma's going to wake up for the next 270 days and she can decide to just say, you know, cancel that and you get a charge back, especially if you rubbed them the wrong way in how you pushed it. So the one thing Jonathan that said was really good is you have to understand, yes, we're agents to the company and we can't do things to harm our companies, right? There's a specific agent relationship we have with our carriers. However, in the sales connotation, I want to be on the side of the prospect. And when there's opportunities to show, hey, I'm on your side, I think you need coverage. I want to help you get coverage. You're elevating yourself from salesperson to advisor, okay? A trusted advisor, somebody who you can trust to buy whatever it is you're selling. So you said something like, hey, look, I'm on your side with this, you know, or I totally get, the last thing, that's what you said. The last thing I'd want you to do is to spend too much on your coverage and lose it. That's kind of what you said, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And like what salesman says that, you know, like salesmen don't say that. Salesmen, at least the perception most people have is salesmen say, you got to get the 121 I don't even have listed here. You know, so the fact that you're willing to say, I want to work with you because this is so important, builds rapport. It builds trust in you and people respect you more and they'll make more decisions to buy. The next thing you said, the something is better than nothing. Again, a fundamental technique to handle the concerns that some of our clients have when they don't get what they want and only can get what they need. So in this case, we needed 10 grand in our hypothetical case to cover the costs, but we could only afford 7,000. And the way Jonathan pitched it worked. You know, let's get you something today. Something's better than nothing. That's better than having zero. Let me add a few other things to the conversation that I think is worth inserting in that. So I say, hey, look, Mrs. Jones, I totally understand if these are out of your budget. Let's look at the 7,000. They say, yeah, well, I don't know. That's not quite the amount I need. I'll say, hey, that's 100% fine. And I totally understand. Yes, you do need 10,000. But many times in life, you know, there's the old saying, you don't always get what you want, but you get what you need. And in the world of getting insurance like this, what you need is what is easily affordable. Because here's the thing, Mrs. Jones. Number one, not paying a premium today doesn't solve the problem. It's paying a premium for insurance that solves the problem. Maybe not perfectly, but a lot better than doing nothing. Doing nothing accelerates how bad the precarious the situation is. Why? I can't guarantee you're going to qualify tomorrow. Heck, I don't know what's going to happen to me. I may walk out here and the mailman runs me over. We don't know. You've probably seen people who have suddenly gotten ill that you never would have expected. And I'm saying all this not to be high pressure or anything, Mr. Jones. It's just a fact of life. And if you know you need coverage, and you don't have any other opportunities to take care of it, getting something that may be a little less is the absolute right thing to do every single time. So which one of these would you prefer? So I like to, so where I was going with all this scripting, Jonathan, is that I like to add in there, your health is not, your tomorrow is not promised. Okay. We don't know if our clients, A, can't even get approved right now, and definitely don't know later on. You know, I think you were talking about a client today that, you know, she was upset because she's had all these health issues and she may not qualify for coverage. You know,
she did in March, and now because of scripts and hospitalizations for pneumonia and stuff like that, she may not even get day one coverage on a second policy.
Right. And that's just it, is that our health, and the point there is our health is not promised. And this is why we close on the first call. It obviously makes our business model more efficient, but it's because we have to strike while the iron is hot. This is something that you have to, when you get this resistance, you have to appeal to what I think are fundamental human concerns or emotions. Tomorrow's, we don't know what's going to happen. The uncertainty that life brings, and using that as a reason why to buy today, even if it's not what you want. So I wanted to throw that out there. I think it's useful to leverage that. I think more of us need to do that kind of style of objection rebuttal, because it cuts to the core of what really matters, which is we don't know what's going to happen. And this is your opportunity today to do something, not for my benefit, but for yours. I'm the one working with you on price. I'm not trying to sell you something you can't afford. I'm trying to get you something you can, that will do the problem, will solve the problem. And yeah, I think you said that too. Like oh yeah, that's what I was going to mention. Today is the only day for certainty. So, okay. Any questions there, Jonathan? Anybody else have any questions?
I think I'm good.
Okay. Hey, Steve, I see you on there. Do you want to do a little objection rebuttal training? All right. Steve's maybe not listening. There he is. Steve, you there? I see you unmuted. I don't hear you, buddy. Well, we'll keep going with Jonathan. That's fine. Okay. So Jonathan's back. So let's see here. Hold on one second. All right. Let's go through. Is there any objections that you have trouble with, Jonathan, that you want to cover?
Yeah, I'm trying to think that. I wish I'd known you were going to ask me that before. I might have come up with some.
That's all right.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of any specifically.
I mean, what we've just done probably constitutes, what, 80% of the objections we get?
Yeah, and I mean, the let me think about it. I've had that come back to me continually, and I'm like, well, when you say you got to think about it, what do you mean by that? And I met with a guy. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, everybody, what Jonathan just said is exactly what you need to say. I may word a little different. I may say, when you say,
how do you mean?
How do you mean? But
yeah, exactly. That's what I mean to say. Yeah, because ever since I watched your video on that, so I try to think, how do you mean, or and I had this one particular guy that just, he kept coming back. Well, I just don't know. And I'm like, well, you've already told me you've had several people come here and show you the same thing you've not bought, and you said that my price is better, and that's great and everything. But what else is it that you really need to think about, Paul? I just don't know. And they just keep going back to that. I need to think about it. And after about the third time, I know they're not a buyer for sure, or they're going to cancel if I do. That's my big one. But usually if I ask them how they mean, I don't think I've ever really overcome that one and had someone buy.
Right.
But,
it's because they're lying.
Yeah. Each person's different.
Well, yeah. When somebody says I need to think, that's not an objection as much as it is a smokescreen. It's like, I don't want to tell you the truth because telling the truth is uncomfortable and it's not polite. I'm a deadbeat, or I've got an uncle that sells insurance or something. Sometimes people keep their objections close to the chest. And even if you're a sincere, honest person and you try to work through it, there's only so much you can do with somebody who's not being fully engaged and fully disclosing. The problem is we don't know sometimes if that's the case or not until we go through the objection rebuttal sequence, right? Because sometimes people do need to think about it, and it's because the price is maybe a little out of their range that they thought, or maybe it's a value proposition. But it starts off sounding the same, which is why we shouldn't assume that just because someone objects that they don't want to buy. Many times they want to buy. They just don't see a road or a route to buy. And so your job is to uncover that and make a creative solution or creative offer. Let's see what else. Let's do the one I hate the most. Let's do the I need to talk to my kids objection rebuttal. You want to do that?
Sure, why not?
So yeah, Jonathan, hey, these look real good. You know, I probably can afford one of these. But, you know, before I make any big decisions, I always talk to my kids. So why don't you call me tomorrow and then I'll tell you if I want to do this or not. Or let me just give me a couple weeks, you know, call me back in 2 weeks and then we'll talk after I get a hold of my son and decide what to do.
Well, David, you know, I'm super busy trying to meet with everybody I can to get this information out to them because we have so many people responding. Is there any way that maybe we could call your son now, talk to them about it, and kind of see what they think? Because I'll actually be here. And then that way, any questions that they have, I can go ahead and just answer them without you having to be the go-between.
Well, you know, my son works for a living. He's busy right now. You know, I'll just talk to him later when he gets off from work.
Okay, so he's working right now. You're not able to get him on the phone right now?
No.
Okay. Well, David, how about this? We don't even know if you're approved yet. If this budget, you know, if this amount works good for your budget, fits into it, how about we do this? How about we go ahead and do an application today? Go ahead and get everything sent in, get everything squared away, get you approved. You can go ahead and talk to your kids. At any point in time, you can give me a call back and you say, hey, John, I've talked to my kids. We don't want to do it. You also have up to 30 days after, you know, we get your plan and you get it issued to you that you could cancel if you want. But, you know, David, I don't know of any children that wouldn't appreciate a parent doing this for them. And on the day that you pass away, if, you know, when your kids are looking for a way to pay for your funeral, your final expenses, and they give me a call, want to know if you've got some coverage with them. I don't know anybody that's going to be unhappy about us being able to provide them a check to be able to cover those expenses. So what do you say we just go ahead and we kind of, you know, get all the paperwork out of the way. You can talk to your kids about it. Give me a call later if it's not going to work out. If I don't hear from you, everything will get submitted and get approved, and you'll hear from me once it does.
Okay. So good. Off script here. So
I used that and sold somebody.
You did?
So yeah,
Awesome.
I was ready for that one. So
Good. That's a tough one to deal with.
He actually called his daughter and couldn't get her on the phone, and I did the same thing. I said, why don't we just go ahead and write it up?
Okay.
And he did. Because he kept telling me that, you know, he had a lot of friends die and he needed to do it. He just hadn't done it. And I'm like, well, how about we just go ahead and do it now? You can always, you know, hit me up, blah, blah, blah. And you used the same thing I just gave you. It worked. First in a long time, but.
So here's the thing that kind of one of the takeaways here. If you're following how I teach how to sell final expense, the only reason you're at this point closing and asking for their business is because they're well qualified. They've met all of our criteria for buying. They have a demonstrable, clearly communicated need and desire. They have a health that qualifies. They have a bank account that we can draft, and we have a budget that they've 100% confirmed is easily affordable. Sometimes people have buyer's remorse or resistance to buy or have second opinions, second guess what they do. And understand that some of these people, again, what people say sometimes you can't quite think is real. And so you have to address every objection rebuttal. The first thing that you did, call them on the spot. I like that because it gets them, they don't expect it. Cool, let's do it right now. I'm here. I know what, you know, that's fresh in mind. Let's talk now, essentially is what you said. Most of the time they won't do that. Sometimes they will. If they do, that's a good sign. You might be able to still get over that objection, right? Because they're like, yeah, I want to make this work. Let's talk to the daughter. And I, at occasions, have had that happen too. Now, when the daughter doesn't pick up invariably 80% of the time and suggests just to wait, the rebuttal you did was great. So the thing I like to do to kind of give you my perspective or how I handle this rebuttal, I'm going to do my script. So I would say, okay, so the daughter didn't answer, not there. Okay, great. So here's my proposition. First of all, this, Jonathan, play prospect for me. Can you at a bare minimum afford the $8,000? Is that easily affordable for you?
Yeah, that's one I was going to do. That's the one I think I'd do.
Perfect, perfect. So here's my proposition. You got to talk to your daughter. Great, that's fine. But I don't even know if I can qualify you today. I don't know. And I don't know what tomorrow brings either. You may be qualified today, but your health changed dramatically and suddenly tomorrow. It happens every single day. Bottom line is, if you know 8,000 is 100% affordable for you and you feel that it's a good value, let's get the application approved. Let's get all the paperwork handled. I'll send this in. And then if there's any problems that you have with this plan after talking it over with your family, then you can just call me back. If I don't hear from you by tomorrow, I'm going to assume that everything is fine. The reason I'm asking you to do this today is because I have a slew of people right now that I have to go see. I'm extremely busy. Here's the stack of leads, or here's the spreadsheet of the leads that I go see. Everybody makes a decision on the first time if they're serious about this, because they all understand we don't know what tomorrow brings. And I want you to take action on this if this is something that you believe in would be of value to your family and give you the peace of mind. Does that make sense to you?
Well, David, the thing is so my daughter was going to pay that $80. She's the one that told me that's what the budget was.
Yeah, thank you. So
I'll script that.
On script. So let me ask you this then, Jonathan. So when you say the daughter is going to pay for it, does that mean it's going to come out of your account or the daughter's bank account?
No, she was gonna pay for it. She was gonna pay for it out of her account.
Okay, so what you're thinking is set it up on her bank account to draft as opposed to yours?
Yeah, she was gonna be the one to do that. Yeah.
Okay. So now off script. So like that's a condition to doing business. So you could try to persuade her to say, well, let's just do this. Let me get you approved. Let me go through the same thing, but then I'll call back tonight to get the information. Because at this point, you're running into a kind of like a one-legger. You know, you're in a situation where the person who's going to pay, the check writer, is not there to provide their information. So it changes the dynamics a little bit of this. At this point, it's moved to a smoke screen to, okay, well, just like having a bank account, you know, it's like she doesn't have a bank account or it's with the daughter. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, exactly. Because I ran an appointment and it turned into that because I approved her. She had a bank account. I asked her what her budget was. She was good. I did my whole spiel, you know, did everything. And then all of a sudden it was, well, my son's going to pay for it. And I said, okay, so he's just going to pay you back what you said. And she was like, well, no, that's the budget he gave me and he's going to pay for it. And I said, well, you know, basically, and at that point I can't do anything today because they're not here to sign it. They're not here to give me their stuff. And so, you know, I explained to him that I've got to meet with both of them at the same time, you know, try to, you know, touch base with them to try to, again, later on to try to find a time that'll work for both of them.
Yeah, that's one of those ones where occasionally, and this is good, this is a good development because the person is not, I mean, they could be lying, but you usually don't hear this. This is like, there's somebody that's really important in my decision-making process, and I can prove it because they're the ones that's going to be paying it. Mm-hmm. So the solution is to, if you can't get them on the phone to talk now to get them information, is, yeah, you're going to have to come back and see the son. I would argue if it's this kind of setup, you'd want to do that anyway. Because a son who's that into his mother's business about paying bills is going to be concerned with some salesperson showing up and pushing a program on her that maybe he didn't give the green flag to, the green light to.
Mhm.
So I kind of look at this as like, okay, cool. Let's get the signatures here if we can. And let's get at least some stuff on paper to start the process. And then before I go, I'm going to schedule a time with her that she knows the son could be here, and then let her arrange for him to be there. And then of course I'll call to confirm, make sure before I make the trip that they're both there, so on and so forth.
Okay, see, I didn't do that. I didn't go that far with trying to get anything on paper. I guess I should have.
So here's why I do that. I just think any type of commitment that you can get accelerates the odds that it's going to get issued. If you have somebody who signs, dates it, you get their social security information, personal information, they're somewhat committed as much as they can be. And to me, that is the reason I do that is psychologically there's a commitment, but also it is a litmus test to see how serious they are. If I go through this whole thing and everything you just described, and they won't let me fill out the application, there's something they're not telling me. They're not ready to buy. There's an objection there that they have not been forthright about. And you may be able to get it out. You may not be able to. But if you can get somebody to go along with you even halfway, that's a good sign you got somebody worth spending time with. And going back, we don't like to go on second appointments, but this one would be different because they signed up, they did this, they agreed to that, they went through the phone interview, did the e-app, whatever. I mean, that's a lot better than a lot of people who claim they got to talk to their kids, and then when you put them on a spot like this, they just don't care.
See, with this particular person, I guess I just thought it was BS because of the fact that up to this point, everything was her, and then all of a sudden at the very end,
yeah.
Whenever I show her and she says yes, and she's like, "Well, my son's going to pay." And I'm like, "What?" I'm thinking, I've asked you what your budget was. I asked you what your if you had a bank account. So, but I guess I can do that next time or try to.
Yeah. So what do I want to say about that? Yeah, I mean, you just have some people that just can't tell the truth, and it's you can't do. I go into every appointment assuming people are going to be skeptical, but when I pose questions to them, they're going to answer them forthright. I'm not going to call anybody out and say they're a liar. But one thing I like to do, again, mentally for me, there's nothing worse than leaving a home thinking you had an opportunity there, but you didn't get it. I don't mind not making sales if I've exhausted every opportunity to make the sale. So that gets me thinking every time I don't make a sale, did I miss anything? Sometimes I do. But like in this circumstance, if you hear this objection, I add that what I call the line in the sand routine. Okay. So I go back to why they decided it was important to buy, do all the whole, you're healthy today, but not tomorrow bit. And I tell them, look, I'm too busy to come back. And this is if they don't have the conditional kid having to pay. This is back to the original objection. I just say, look, you need this. Here's the reasons you told me. I'm not making this up. You did. Tomorrow's not promised. Let's take action today. If not, I'll pack up my bags. You're basically telling me you're not interested in this is important. That's fine. But today is the day to do this, not to even get money, but just to get you approved and then set the payment up later. So are you on board with this? Is this something you're serious about that you want to do? Or is this just not something you're interested in, period? So I'll go all in on a line in the sand where if they say, no, well, they're telling me, I don't care if you never come back, I'm not ready to buy. And to me, if I've done everything right up to that point, building value, urgency, identifying the need, they're just not being honest with me. And what am I going to do? If they say they need it, but then they back out of it, I got to go find a real prospect. Is it? Maybe I did miss something, but at least I can close that deal out and not let it fester. Okay. Anybody got any final questions or concerns here? Anything at all with objections, rebuttals?
Hey, Dave, can you hear me all right? It's Steve.
Yeah, Steve, what's up, man? How you doing?
Hey, my phone is a little bit wonky. I heard you earlier, and I've been trying to mess around while driving here, so I got it on.
Don't kill yourself.
So hopefully it doesn't hang up. One thing I was going to say about the whole I come back later. I'm not interested, or not interested. I'm interested, but I can't do it today. If anybody has one thing that's helped me, this is kind of my second go around doing this now. But I had previous clients that I sat with, but more importantly, any sits that you go on. If you run into anything where you couldn't cover them because something happened, right? This is one that's come up now a few times for me, and I have some decent examples that I've printed out. I have their lead card, and I have a story behind a few people who, because they didn't do it the day I was there, they got screwed. And if you have those really work well, because now you're not the one telling them.
Yeah, don't listen to me. Listen to my, unsatisfied prospects that wish they did.
Yeah, and it comes up actually a lot, even if it's not, a big story, right? You show up at someone's house and, blah, 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 and they say something about it. You can even use that as your reference point if you don't have a lot of stories or people, because,
Can you give a story, like right off the top of your head, the most common one that you use that you feel is most effective to explain why it's important to buy today?
Yeah, I had so last year I got a death claim came in from somebody I'd sat the year before, and I signed his wife up. She was the one who was concerned because she had all the health problems, and the husband was like 53 years old, no problems at all, clean as a whistle, no prescriptions, nothing. But because I was there, we decided to take care of his as well. And had we not done that, he might not have ever got it. So I get the death claim a year later that he woke up in the morning and took a shower and had a brain aneurysm and died.
Wow. And he was the healthy one.
What's that?
And he was the healthy one.
He was the healthy one. Yeah. And so I have that as a printout. I have his deaths, or his thing from the mortuary,
Really?
like the
Wow.
description of his death, and then I have my little story. But that happens. And I had an example last week where I had for the people who always get the come back in 2 weeks, or we'll do it next month. I had one where they had a term policy, and the guy, and he she hemmed and hawed and didn't like the whole life prices, but kind of agreed that she needed to do it for him. She didn't like term. Told me to come back. I did come back 2 weeks later. She was kind of rude to me too, of course, on top of it. And come back again in a couple weeks and we'll do it. So I come back a couple weeks, and she lets me write in. Her face is totally different. She's a lot nicer. I'm like, oh, wow. And then she's like, oh, can we still do this? I go, yeah, we can do this. And she goes, oh, but I need to tell you that my husband, we thought he had pneumonia, but he just got cancer. So I'm like, okay. I go, it's like, I hate to say I told you. I don't say that to them, obviously, but it just fuels me now, right? Having these examples of people who are lying or making their excuses or whatever, and then having real life examples of it happening to people, it just makes it a lot stronger.
So 2 points here I want people to take away. Number one, use Steve's story. Obviously use it in an earnest way. Hey, I heard a story once from an agent friend of mine. He said ABC, XYZ. Share exactly what Steve did. Stories, especially in rebuttaling these silly objections, work wonders. And I'll tell you, number two, with a tenure in this business, you have exactly what Steve experienced. Steve was unaware of this to start with. It's one thing to hear from Dave, like, oh yeah, I should close everybody and I should rebuttal it and health doesn't change, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, whatever, right? It's dismissive maybe. But then when you actually see it, you realize, like, it was you, by being persistent and concerned about the client's welfare, that they are covered. And then it occurs to you that it's your moral obligation that everybody you see, you do everything physically possible short of choking them to see their mortality. And if they don't see the mortality, well, and then if you don't get them, at least you have a clear conscience that you gave your enthusiasm, emotion, and energy to get them to see the truth of their nature.
And I think more importantly, you speak from the heart.
Yes. Bingo.
Which is what nails it for them.
And that is not high pressure. That is not a high pressure close. That is and sometimes I'll say this, I'll say, if you were my dad, I would tell you, this is what I would tell you. So I'll try to convey it that, like, hey, I'm just coming from a place of love. And that's the ultimate way to rebuttal these objections. And stories, like you said, I'm so glad you brought that up, Steve. That does an incredible job of just clearing the air and getting people to be serious. So thank you. Anything else you want to add, Steve?
No, not offhand.
Okay, great, man. Thanks for popping on. Appreciate it. All right, anybody else? Final call for questions, concerns, comments? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. If you have any questions for me, please go ahead and email me, text me, whatever you want to do is fine with me. I hope you got some value out of this training. We do these trainings twice a week on different subsections of the presentation. And the whole goal here is to better refine our skill set. So special thanks to Jonathan for playing agent and prospect with me. Thank you, Steve, for popping in with that good reminder about the importance of stories. And we'll see y'all next time. Y'all take care. Take care.